Picture Book Summit.
Hi, this is Emma Walton Hamilton, children's author and co-founder of Picture Book Summit, the world-class online conference for picture book creators, now in its 12th year. This year's summit will take place on October 3rd, 2026, and our theme this year is Oceans of Possibilities, a deep dive into picture book craft. Tickets and details are available at picturebooksummit.com. Today, I have the great privilege of chatting with one of our keynote speakers for the 2026 summit, multi-award-winning and best-selling picture book author, Derrick Barnes. Derrick is a three-time New York Times bestselling author of over 20 groundbreaking, multi-award-winning books for children of all ages, including Crown, an ode to the fresh cut, which was the winner of a Newbery Honor, Caldecott Honor, Coretta Scott King Author Honor, and Coretta Scott King Illustrator Honor, and the New York Times bestselling picture books, I Am Every Good Thing, The King of Kindergarten, The Queen of Kindergarten, and Like Lava in My Veins, I Got You a Brother's Promise, and this year's 7 Million Steps, the true story of Dick Gregory's Run for the Hungry. Derrick's work has made him a National Book Award finalist, a Newbery honoree, three-time Coretta Scott King honoree, and the only two-time Kirkus Prize winning author. He's also earned the Yalsa Award for Excellence in Nonfiction, an Ezra Jack Keats Award, and an NAACP Image Award nomination, as well as a Jane Addams Honor Award. Derrick's Picture Book Summit presentation is called From Crowns to Kings, How I Navigate My Own Authentic Lane in a Genre with So Many Beautiful Voices. And when Derrick first penned his first picture book, he was on the verge of stepping away from his dream of becoming a successful children's book author. Even though he'd published 8 books in other formats, he had struggled to find his voice in a crowded sea of talented writers. In his presentation, Derrick will be sharing how authenticity unlocks the treasure chest to writing for young readers and is the key to finding your unique gifts as a person and a writer. Welcome, Derrick.
Man, thank you so very much.
Quite a biography there, and I imagine it must make you feel a little tired to hear all of that.
I know, it's always a two-sided type of feeling for me because I'm very competitive. So if there's an award to win in this space, I want it on my shelf,
No,
and I am going to go get it. But the other half of me is very I don't know. It's not of disbelief that I'm here, but I still freshly remember when there were no books to sign, there were no book deals coming in, my bank account was empty, and to hear all those books called out, it's just a testament, not even to people who want to be in the children's book space, but we're talking about just life, period. If you
yeah.
just stay on the ride, if you just keep trudging forward, if you just keep waking up every morning with a goal in your mind, a goal in your heart, if you keep putting the work in, you will see the results. And I've had things happen for me that I couldn't have imagined for myself, but I just got to the point where I just wanted to focus on what I could control. And what I can control is trying to craft books that I didn't see when I was a boy, that I'm currently not seeing out on the market. And I just try to focus on the work. And now when I get that introduction, I feel kind of shy, kind of coy a little bit, but inside I'm doing cartwheels. I'm just so grateful to be here.
Oh, that's lovely advice. Thank you. I had a teacher once who said his mantra was never mind the talent, do you have the tenacity? And I think that's
it.
such a big piece of it, is just
Mhm.
hanging in there.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated by the fact that you write across multiple genres and formats. And I wonder, because this is Picture Book Summit, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about picture books specifically and what your favorite part of the writing and or publishing process of picture books is for you.
I remember when I got to book 8, that was a middle grade novel called We Could Be Brothers. And it was published, it was first by Scholastic in 2010. and they had a pretty decent rollout for me. But after like maybe 2 years, it wasn't selling well. It didn't win any awards, and it went out of print. And I think we had all four. Well, we had all four boys. My last son was born in 2011, and I've had so many odd jobs, man. I always say if it's legal and you can name it, I probably did it during the course of me trying to get to this point. But my last job, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. My last job that I worked in Kansas City was for the outreach department for the Kansas City public library. We went to daycare centers. We went to juvenile detention. I did that twice a week and did writing exercises with those young men. Went to elementary schools. And now that I look back, that was God getting me ready to speak to larger audiences. I had a chance to we had a chance to go through the stacks and pick out like 15 books that we would take with us throughout the day. And I remember my agent telling me, because I felt like I was just at the bottom of the barrel. I always say I was beneath the valley, when I was about to quit. And I was giving her manuscripts from all genres, from every age level. And she was like, Derrick, you need to stick with one genre so that your fans know where to find you. At that point, I felt like I didn't have any fans. And I've always been conscious of the fact that I want the entire family. I want a child to grow with my books. So you read King of Kindergarten, and then one day you'll be reading The Incredibly Human Handsome Blaze. Mm-hmm. Or when an entire family shows up, I want a book for everybody. And I was always conscious of that. And I could have never imagined. We moved to Charlotte in 2014. And we got a rental house, and that was the lowest point for me. There was nothing coming in at that point. And then we found a house where we are now, 2015. I was substitute teaching, and 2016, I was on Facebook and I saw a post from award-winning illustrator based out of Austin named Don Tate. And he posted a picture of his son who just graduated from law school like 2 weeks ago. So, congratulations to them. But I think his son was 15 at the time, and he just came from the barbershop, and Don drew a side profile. The haircut was perfect, beautiful. And so I am, between 2011, 2016, I wrote like 30 some odd books that nobody wanted. I was just cranking out books, middle grade novels, graphic novels, picture books. And I asked him if he wanted to do a book of maybe like 20 sketches like that one. And I would write poems about how much we love our Black sons, how much we care about them, how much we lift them up. And obviously he was a working illustrator. Most illustrators are working on like 2 or 3 books at a time. He didn't have time to do it, but I wrote the poem anyway. I still remember where I was when I wrote it. It took me like 45 minutes to write the manuscript for A Crown and Ode to a Fresh Cut. And you just don't know which book is going to be the one that kicks down the door for you. I have a mentor named Wade Hudson. He and his wife are like surrogate parents for me in this industry. And he would call me every month during my Valley years. And we stay on the phone for like a half an hour. And we got off the phone the same way every time. He would always say, it's just going to take one book, son. It's just going to take one book. You just stay in there. And I could have never imagined that Crown would be the one that really kicked the doors down for me. We won everything but a bowling trophy with that book. I had never received a star review, for any book. It was on every list for one of the best books of 2017. You ran through the list of awards that it won, and that was my 9th book. I always tell people there are no overnight success stories, man. Like I said before, you gotta keep pushing. You gotta keep working on your craft. I'm still, even at this point, I'm trying to get better. I want to get better. I want to pull from everything that inspires me, that stimulates me. I want to get better. And at that point, I was just trying to get my foot in the door, and Crown really just knocked the doors off the hinges. So I'm always grateful for that book. As you can see, I bought the original painting that's on my wall, and it's right across from my desk. And I see that painting every morning just to remind me to just never give up and to keep a chip on my shoulder.
It's a phenomenal book, and one of the things that's so magnificent about that book is the voice, and the authenticity of that voice, and the joy in the book is just so contagious. It's just amazing. I should mention, speaking of Crown, that every year Picture Book Summit donates a portion of our sales proceeds to a charity that celebrates literacy. And this year, that charity is Barbershop Books. So
All
it's
right.
a lovely synergy there with
Mhm.
having you as our keynote speaker and supporting Barbershop Books, which is awesome. I know that your presentation will be focusing on authenticity of voice. And it feels to me like maybe that was part of what tipped the scales for you in terms of just Crown being so original and fresh and authentic. Does that feel right to you? Do you think that's what the success was rooted in?
Yeah, so I was hired in 1999. I was the first Black male writer, greeting card writer at Hallmark Cards. That was my first job right out of school, and I attribute my experience there to my success with the picture book craft, with the brevity of words
Mhm.
and the beautiful artwork, and just really trying to tap into the emotion of the readers with just very few words. I attribute a lot of that to my love of poetry, but also my time at Hallmark Cards. It was like being at graduate school for me. And I first caught wind of the American Library Association Awards when I was there, I think like 2001. I listened to it. I listened to all the winners, and I noticed that most of the books that had African American, protagonists, they either were not up for the big awards, or if they were, they all centered around, especially if they had Black, male protagonists,
Mhm.
they were always in a dire situation. They either lived in the projects, or they were running away from slave catchers, or was in the civil rights movement. There were just no books that feature Black children just being children. And so, being the father of four boys, I was like, if I ever get the opportunity to get in this industry, I'm going to present Black boys with dignity, with pride. Again, having four boys, just raising four boys, four different personalities. So it's not just a monolith of what it means to be a Black boy in this country. There's so many different ways to express what it means to be a Black boy in America. And I always, if you look at all of my book covers, I always want to present my Black boys as being confident, being strong, with their heads up to the sun. And I didn't see that. I didn't see that. I didn't see that protagonist. I read a lot of great books written by African American authors. I just felt like that was my lane to really go into. I had a chapter book series called, Ruby and the Booker Boys. I think I did that with the Booker Boys in that series. But I was still just trying to find my voice, and I still do that. I look at the market, see what's out, see what's missing, see whose story is not being told. And with Crown and Ode to the Fresh Cut, that was my first time working with a Black woman editor that was outside of the big five publishing space. Danae Milner was a New York Times bestselling author. She had done a lot of biographies for celebrities, and she earned a imprint at a small house in Evanston, Illinois, called Agate. And Agate is most famous for doing cookbooks and biographies, and they had never done children's books before, and they gave her an opportunity to publish four books centered around Black children. I just felt very comfortable writing, for her, because before that I had never had a Black woman, but actually had a Black son that can relate to the language that I was using. So as you can see on my t-shirt, music is a huge influence, and I try to write in a very lyrical way, and I try to use terminology and phrases that Black boys understand. So she didn't have to ask me any questions or ask me what a do-rag was, or what a certain hairstyle was. Like, she understood, because she understood that the book wasn't necessarily about those terms. I really wrote this book so that every single human being understands what it feels like to get something new, to make you feel better about yourself, whether it's a new
Yeah.
dress, a new hairstyle, a new pair of shoes. And when you go out into the world, you just hope that people feel the same way about you that you feel about yourself. And that's what Crown was really about. Because I wrote that during the time when there were a few shootings and killings of unarmed Black boys and Black children. And Black young men, and that's one of the many fears of Black mothers, that when their children leave, the house, they hope that people can see that same heightened sense of value that they see in them. So that's one of the reasons I wrote that book, and I was just very blessed to have Deneen as a editor, and that was my first time really just writing freely. I didn't have to think about the gatekeepers when I was writing. Will they understand this? Won't they? And I think a lot of writers, compromise that authenticity, and a lot gets left out of a lot of books. But this was my first time not to have anything omitted. She pushed everything through and worked on the craft of everything, and we just crossed our fingers and put it out there. So
Amazing.
yeah.
And talk a little bit about Gordon C. James and his art. Of course, most picture book authors and illustrators, if they're not the same person, don't necessarily have communication with one another. It always runs through the editor and the art director. But I wonder how your relationship with the art went and how you felt when you saw the art come in at first.
So I met Gordon. I've been knowing Gordon for over 25 years now. We met at Hallmark Cards. He was a young illustrator.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I remember after they showed me my cubicle, it was sometime during that first week, I went to the restroom and I saw another bald young Black man in the hallway. I'm like, there's another one. There's another one. I was like, what's up, man, man? And he and I have been friends, ever since. But Gordon is a extremely talented painter. He is genius level talent wise. And I've always loved his artwork, his attention to detail, his sense of beauty when it comes to painting Black characters. And he's very old school. He doesn't do digital work. Every single image in all of his books are all like huge paintings, and they get scanned and then scaled down in size. But he does it the old school way, which is another thing I love about him. But I've been extremely blessed to work with a lot of talented illustrators. And one thing that I noticed from, all of them is their work ethic. Like they take their art and their craft extremely serious in this day and age of, AI artwork, which really makes me angry because I know so many talented illustrators that put in a lot of hours and don't get any sleep at all, working on their craft, trying to, distinguish themselves from everyone else. And Gordon was one of the first illustrators that I worked with. Vanessa Brantley-Newton, who's a really close friend of mine. She also lives in Charlotte. Gordon lives in Charlotte as well. Just very hardworking, extremely talented. We were able to strike gold again with I Am Every Good Thing in 2020. And we have two more books coming out. It's a follow-up to I Am Every Good Thing. And we have a collection of essays and poems that I wrote called Do It for the People that comes out next year. And I think I Am Victory comes out in early 27, maybe.
Amazing. Lots in the pipeline. You talked a little bit about, going into schools when you were working in the library position. What's it like now going into schools? How do you find kids receive the books when you do author visits and so forth?
It's a totally different, introduction. When I used to substitute teach, I learned early on that you have to come into the classroom and be very stern and then kind of peel back. If I used to come into the classroom, hey kids, really nice, trying to be like a dad, and they would tear me up, man. It would be a long day. But I remember sitting in my car before I got out, like, man, this has to come to an end, man. I love working with children, but I don't want to be a substitute teacher forever. And now when I go to schools, there are big banners put up and there's pictures of you. It's a totally different, introduction. And it feels good when I think the best part of my presentation is because I'm very much so an introvert. Still been doing this for over 20 years. I still get nervous before I get up and speak. Even though I've never had a bad experience in my life, I still get nervous, before I get up and speak. But the best part of my presentations are during the book signing line when I have a chance to talk to these babies from age 5 to 17, that
Mm.
one-on-one conversations with them. That's probably my favorite part. I like to just hear what they have to say, not only about the book, but as you can imagine, what the younger children, there's no telling what they may say or what these books may have sparked in them. These different ideas that these children have, and I always keep in mind that I may be the only positive interaction that they have with a adult all day. I keep in mind that because there are a lot of great teachers, but when these children go home, you have no idea what they're facing when they go home. I want them to remember their interactions with me, and I think about my children when they were young, and I want to interact with them the way I would want somebody to interact with my children, when I'm not around. So I really cherish those little one-on-one interactions as I'm signing books and talking to these babies from all over the country. I've had a great time. Last year I was on the road pretty much half the year for the 2 books that I came out with, and I had a great time, man. That was probably one of my best book years.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about your Picture Book Summit presentation? I know it's early days and you may not have fully fleshed it out yet, but just some general ideas of what you're hoping to share or what you'd like to leave attendees with.
I think I mentioned authenticity, and I think for the most part, when people are getting into this industry or when they think about crafting a good picture book, they think about the books that they have read and they think about the books that they loved reading when they were growing up. And I want picture book creators, illustrators, writers to understand that you have an opportunity to create one of those books that live with kids, forever. And you can't do that if you are one, afraid to step outside of the box, or you're trying to mimic a book that you love or that you've seen before. This is your opportunity to stay in your lane and tell a story and create a character and to create a moment that will stay with a child forever. And the best way to do that is to just be yourself, right from your own center, right from your own experience. And I think a lot of us feel apprehensive of doing that. Maybe we'll be judged, maybe the story won't be good enough. But you have no idea how many people will resonate with your life experience and your fears and your joys and your concerns, and just write from your own center. And that's what I did, and that's what I try to do. So,
Amazing. Do you
mhm.
have any piece of advice that you received at some point in your life, writing advice that stayed with you, that resonated with you specifically?
I receive so much whenever I encounter a legendary illustrator writer. I always try to pick their brain, and I think I've already said the one that sticks with me the most on from Wade Hudson, and about just keep treasuring forward. I'm at a space right now in my career where I'm only interested in putting out books and telling stories that I want to write.
Mm.
And I still hear Wade in the back of my voice, even though I've so-called made it. There still are books that I want to write, and there still are stories that I would like to tell. There still are a lot of characters that I would like to create, and so I'm gonna heed his advice, no matter how far I go, to just keep writing, just keep writing. There's so many more stories to be told, so many more stories to be told. So just keep writing.
Keep writing forward.
Yeah.
Well, Derrick, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for being with us today. We are so looking forward to hearing from you at Picture Book Summit.
Thank
And
you for having me.
for everybody listening today, you can hear more from Derrick when you register for Picture Book Summit 2026. which will take place online October 3rd. Early bird tickets are available at picturebooksummit.com now through August 27th. We hope you'll join us. And thank you, Derrick. So great talking to you, and we look forward to seeing you at the summit.
Thank you.